and in Melbourne, Stephen Mayne from the Mayne Report. Now, I want to ask you, and perhaps Stephen Mayne, I'll start with you, about James Packer's strategy. Let's look at, apart from the results of this week, let's look at the strategy with some asset sales, including out of Seek this week, which seemed to be a surprise to everybody, and the Cons Media buyback. Stephen, what's your take on all this?
Well, Kerry Stokes, his great billionaire media rival, wants to play another round in their war, which goes back to the pay TV C7 wars. So when Stokes raided the Packer Media rump, Consolidated Media Holdings, and bought a 20% stake, James has now done 3 or 4 things, actually. He first did his own 3% creep to get his stake up to 41%. So neither of them can move any further for the next 6 months without making a full bid, which would cost, $2.5 billion or thereabouts. He then sold off the crown jewels, if you like, the Packer family's commercial headquarters at 54 Park Street. So if Kerry Stokes is going to get the control of the company, he's not going to own the building that the Packers have worked out of for decades. The big one for me was then selling the 26% stake in Seek for $440 million, crystallising a profit of $300 million, leaving $500 million of cash on the balance sheet, and then announcing a buyback, which will start in a couple of weeks to buy back up to 10% of the stock, which will get the Packer stake up to close to 46%, and basically forces Kerry Stokes to either admit he'll probably never have control or to make a big takeover bid to get control of, the 25% stake in Foxtel and the 50% stake in Fox Sports. And if that happens, you then get Rupert Murdoch coming in, and he's got preemptive rights over both assets. So you'd have a shootout between basically Stokes and Murdoch as to who'd get those interests in pay TV in Australia, with James Packer perceived to be further retreating from the media landscape.
All right, well, just the first scenario seems to be, or at first, the commentators seem to say that this was very much a defensive, that James Packer was wanting to cement his stake. But then, is it possible, there has been some talk that, he just wants to exact a higher price if, in fact, he does sell out down the track to Kerry Stokes. But then your point about, well, that would, kind of trigger a move by Rupert Murdoch.
Well, there was some theory that Stokes was interested in the Seek stake. So in getting rid of the Seek stake, at some levels it makes it less attractive, because Seek is a wonderful asset. I think that also James Packer was spooked by the debt crisis. He was left with $1 billion US of private debt in his private company. He had balance sheet issues, with Crown. He had to raise money. Seek had to raise money. And I just think he was spooked. And so he saw the Seek share price crash down to $2. Then he saw it come back up to $5, and he said, geez, I can actually take $5 a share here, which is much more than I could have got in March. He's taken the cash. He's also sold out of the pastoral business for $425 million. He wants to be able to say what Rupert Murdoch can say, and that is, the family has no debt, and I've got the strongest casino balance sheet in the world. And he's getting very close to now being able to say that. And sure, he's no longer worth $7 billion, but he's worth $3 billion, and it's absolutely risk-free in terms of the empire potentially being under pressure. Whereas 6 months ago, he was under some fairly significant pressure. OK,
so you're saying that the Seek, he really did it sort of for the money. There was a huge gain there. Because, I mean, some of the commentators have been saying that Seek is kind of now positioned, if we are in a recovery, to do well again when employment jobs and things like that, ads for that, come back on full stream.
Well, it's all about valuation and price. Seek shares rose 15% on Tuesday after their profit result, and James Packer sold the next day. I mean, Seek worth $1.8 billion. That's a pretty big price, and I just think he was quite opportunistic in saying the share price has rocketed, 150% in 6 months. I'll take some cards off the table, and I will be risk-free. I'll be absolutely debt-free with no risk if I do that. It's a liquid asset, and it's not particularly connected to Foxtel or Fox Sports, which are more complicated because you've got the preemptive rights and their minority stakes. It was a clean exit, and I think it just suited him at the time, given that he is exiting the media landscape slowly.